Down to 53. Nick Bosa maybe getting traded if you ask Reddit, but probably not because it's Reddit. Right, Jason? Right, Jason? Hey, your favorite 49ers podcast is about to start right now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Sprint Ride Option Podcast.
Oh my goodness, a special lunchtime edition of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. One with a little bit of pace to it because your boy's got to get back to work. He's on his lunch break, but an exciting episode nonetheless. I am joined by a man who I wouldn't even dare let get to the waiver wire. He would be my pick 1 of 53. He is the franchise. He is the face. It is Jason Aponte. Jason Aponte, how you doing on this lovely, I'm so excited, Wednesday afternoon? How you doing?
I'm good. Today's been a very fun day, like a very, very fun day. Got some stuff, brewing a little bit. I don't know if you guys kind of teased it today on Twitter. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, honestly, we're getting past the point of hypotheticals now, and we actually have football to talk about. Like, look at us. I can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I usually like to take the claim of, and since you tweeted it, I figured we could talk about it real quick. I like to take the claim as the coolest guy Jason Aponte's talking to on a given day. Following up Vernon Davis is a rough spot for me, dare I say.
Well, to be fair, you are Brad Graham will probably follow you up a little bit later. But yeah, just for you guys that don't know, interview with Vernon Davis probably going to be dropping tomorrow morning with an article accompanying on it on Niners Nation. So really cool to talk with number 85, the original, the OG. We talked about the OG 85. We talked about the catch. We talked about the 49ers quarterback situation, and I asked him a question about his appearance on one of my favorite shows, The League, just to make sure I kept myself on brand.
That's that's the fake Twitter account episode, right?
Yeah, the fake Vernon Davis account. Yeah, it's so good. Where Taco has the fake account, and he's like, well, I'll ask the Vernon Davis I know. And Andre's like, yeah, go ask the Vernon Davis you know. And it's literally Vernon Davis, like he pulls up with him. And he's like, how do you know him? He's like, he's my Eskimo brother. I literally watched that episode in preparation for the interview. Like, that was literally what I did. I didn't watch game film.
He's my Eskimo brother.
I didn't watch game film. I didn't watch the Saints game. I watched that League episode so I could make sure that I could remember, going through my notes while I was doing the interview, that I made sure I asked him, because I did get a chance to ask Jay Glazer about that too. So
what a TV show! What a TV show!
Yes, I love the League.
So
yes,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't remember. I don't remember if I ever watched the last season, to be 1,000%.
Don't.
Now that I think of it.
Don't.
But man, what a
really
TV show!
It got really dark.
Oh,
it got really dark. Yeah.
Jason, I'm going to leave it up to you. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go through position by position and then we get to the edge spot and we could talk about Nick Bosa, or do we want to go Nick Bosa up top?
No, I think we should talk about the Nick Bosa thing first. Just because yesterday I was like off of Twitter, took some naps yesterday, touched some grass, did some stuff, sang some songs,
and
read
then you
some
checked
books.
Reddit.
And then I opened up Twitter and everybody's talking about Reddit. And I'm like, wait a minute, is Reddit down? And I'm just like, and I look, and it's a post from Josh Rosen, former 49ers legend, who apparently called the Christian McCaffrey deal way before. And it says something to the effect that the 49ers are working on a trade to trade Nick Bosa to an AFC team. Yeah, I don't know, man. I have a hard time. I have a hard time trying. Reddit, if Twitter is the place of faceless individuals who spew whatever it is that they want, Reddit is the absolute pulpit of people with no pictures and anything like that, just spewing whatever they want.
It's so funny, the panic that caused. And my tweet was, it's a little telling of the situation, at least from a fan standpoint, that an anonymous Reddit account can cause this much chaos. But Jason, when do you think we're going to learn? Just wait until a known source says something, because we tend to do this. And this isn't even a thing on Jason DeMoss, who had a tweet today that the Niners may or may not be getting close on Nick Bosa. So everybody took that at its word. But this isn't even a Dumas versus Reddit thing. It's just so funny to me because we did this with, was it Rappaport in March and April, that people were trying to discredit Rappaport about the Lance trade talks, and now look where we're at. So like, when as a society of 49ers Twitter are we going to realize that, like, hey, just because it was tweeted or I guess posted on Reddit doesn't mean we need to go like full steam ahead of like, oh my God, they're going to trade Nick Bosa. What AFC team do you think it is? Like, what AFC? It has to be the Dolphins, right?
Got to be the Chargers, right? So you can go play with Joey.
Oh man, what other let's start just throwing out AFC.
Well, no, I love Rich's theory of Bosa for Herbert. I'm just
Bosa
like,
for Herbert. Yes, that's a good one. That's a very fun thought to throw out. He's thinking too small. What about Bosa for Mahomes? They could use.
At this point, the Chiefs got to be bored with the way that they have a franchise guy. Like they want to.
Yeah, no, it's got to be more exciting. You got to trade up for the third pick in the draft and never play him. That's when the excitement is starting, right? And so.
Shout out to CB Niners, member for 17 months of the channel. My guy, appreciate you. Sup, my guys. So trading Bosa for 3 firsts and a third. I think that while he's making the joke about Trey Lance, I think the best that they can get for Nick Bosa at this point is a 4th. Just a 4th. Yeah,
just a 4th. I think a 6th, maybe a 6th. You know,
a 4th. Nick Bosa is just worth 1/4. That's it.
You could really, I think I saw this from Twitter. You could really solve the kicker problem. Bosa for Justin Tucker. Like, just solve that situation.
Hey, look, I want to say something. It's going to come off controversial. But if I knew
being controversial, no way.
But if I knew that I was getting the Justin Tucker that's the greatest kicker of all time, I would absolutely burn a first-round pick on Justin Tucker.
Dude, just get it solved.
Get it locked in. 60-yarders. 60-yarders? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Done and done.
Kyle never going for it on 4th and 1 at the 35, knowing he has a kicker.
Just getting close to the 50 and knowing that Tucker is going to bang that through and then go home and then like sing opera songs. That's absolutely worth a first round pick. Absolutely,
man. Oh man, all the fictional trades that we can make for Nick Bosa, and he's probably not going anywhere. He's going to be.
No, he's not.
It's just a lot of fun.
Sources tell me that eventually this deal will get done and Nick Bosa is going to be the highest paid defender in the NFL playing for the San Francisco 49ers. Sources have told me, and make sure that when it does happen, you credit me because my source told me.
Javi threw it in our chat today. Like, he's the deal's going to be 6, 7, whatever it's going to be. And I'm like, for what AFC team, Javi? He's like, the 49ers. I'm like, that's yeah, no, it's so funny. The just very small things that cause 49ers Twitter, to use a word, to go into a bit of a tizzy. You know, it's a anonymous Reddit user, and we had a whole panic about Nick Bosa being traded to an AFC team. It was phenomenal.
Can we keep vibing a little bit more too about this?
Yes, absolutely.
Always so Benjamin Albright was dragged into this, and Benjamin Albright is somebody who's very tapped in, and I wanted to just talk about the situation around it just a little bit more. I mean, if you guys are watching, you're watching on the West Coast, it's 12:23, you know, like you're vibing, you're at lunch, let's have some fun. The Redditor that posted this, like, you know, again, you can edit the post and put updates. That's part of the best part of like Reddit. You don't have to pay for Reddit to like update your posts and things like that, anything like that. And he says Benjamin Albright is a fraud and he doesn't have any idea because Albright says no. And like it's just we have gotten to the point and this point in 49ers offseason that we have someone calling this trade out, someone who claims to have had the McCaffrey trade that Benjamin Albright is saying, I knew before that too as well. Like you're having source wars with a faceless person on Reddit.
Yeah.
It just sums up the insanity of the offseason so far.
Well, the generic, like, what's so funny if that one little sentence about Christian McCaffrey, like, I had the McCaffrey trade before, if that's not included, I'm just passing it off as like, okay, whatever. But like the little tidbit of like, I had the McCaffrey trade, I'm like, oh man, like maybe this is true. It's not true, guy. Like if it happens, it happens. I don't think it's going to. I think Nick Bosa is playing week 1 for the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's a pretty easy solution at this point. Just a blank check. I think a blank check.
Oh. Read this one.
Redditor was the former quarterback coach. Is that Is that
Scangarello?
Scangarello? Is that what it is? That why he picked the name Josh Rosen?
I love it so much, Raphael. Raphael, don't let anybody tell you that your tinfoil hat theory is wrong. Anything and everything is on the table.
We've established that. Like people like the tinfoil hat thing. It's not even a meme at this point because, as I said, we're talking about a Reddit post as if it's legitimate, and who knows, it can be because there's a world where the trade happens, right? There's a world where a Nick Bosa trade happens.
Well, and what's the percentage? Like realm of possibilities. What's the percentage of it? 1% is a percent.
1%. Yeah.
1%'s a percent. Like it's still a percent.
And people think that like, oh, 1%'s low, but like, hey man, that just means in one universe out of 100, this Nick Bosa trade happens, and there's a chance the one universe is the one we are in.
Yeah.
So
Ugo,
it's.
I love this comment. My source wears a trench coat and hides in an alley.
Yeah, that's where I get.
I love The Simpsons as well too, and Waylon Smithers is literally like the guy in the shadows. I love that so much.
As somebody who wanders the alleys of Sacramento frequently, you could find a dude with a trench coat pretty frequently. It's pretty easy to find those type of guys. So, there's your Nick Bosa talk. I'm a little more worried than I was maybe like a week ago because like we are like. Yeah.
Concern.
We're 10 days away. 10 days away.
Concern is grown. It's gone from literally Andrew and I saying, I don't care, everything is going to be fine, like I'm not worried about it, to it is August 30th now at this point. And how could you not at least be a bit more concerned?
Yeah, and Raphael says Khalil Mack got traded. Just saying. I mean, to make it a little closer to home, though, DeForest Buckner got traded.
Why would you say that?
I'm just saying it's history. It happened.
But
it's a fact.
I was gonna say
we could just undo it. Send Bosa to the Colts for Buckner. Solved.
That's not the same thing at all.
AFC team. AFC team.
Well, then tell him to send Jonathan Taylor, since Jim Irsay called the Dolphins and said, I want Jalen Waddle, and he got laughed out off the call.
Would you trade Deebo Samuel for
Jalen Waddle?
For Jonathan Taylor.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
We already have a good running back. But Raphael says Khalil Mack got traded. I was gonna make a joke about the Raiders are stupid.
Yeah, the Raiders,
yeah.
Raiders, man. Anyways, we're talking about the Raiders here on the Sprint Red Option Podcast. Hey, you want to dive into the initial 53-man roster, Jason?
I'd love to.
Do you have any thoughts about the three quarterbacks named to the roster? Any surprises there? Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen?
I'm just relieved. I think Andrew Pasquini. I'm a bit relieved.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, man. I'm relieved. Like, no matter what your thoughts are about the Trey Lance trade, I'm relieved because now we don't have to talk about it anymore.
No,
we don't.
I thought maybe the only conversation point was Brandon Allen because Kyle Shanahan had that quick little quote in his Friday press conference, but that ended up not being a concern. Although it might be a concern in a bit. We'll talk about some moves that happened. So quarterback's not much there. We talked about it. We've Jason, dare I say, we have exhausted the quarterback talk.
Well, we haven't. All right, Andrew.
We haven't. Uh-oh. Is Justin Herbert a billion times better than Brock Purdy?
Jimmy Garoppolo's comments on Sports Illustrated about we would be remiss in our duties if we didn't at least touch upon it. That was a
good way. That was a fun way to wake up yesterday.
Right. I would love to get Andrew Pasquini's take on what Jimmy Garoppolo said to the Sports Illustrated writer. I believe his last name is Lundberg.
It was just Robin Lundberg. He said
shout out Kyle. Shout out Kyle Breckwitz
at 49ers Kyle.
At 49ers Kyle. He does all our graphics.
Jimmy Garoppolo said so much by saying
nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And like I saw that Stephen A. Smith said Jimmy Garoppolo needs to shut the hell up or something and it's just like, what did he say to Warren to shut the hell up? He obviously he has thoughts. And the thing I have an issue with is this idea that what do you think about the quarterback situation under Kyle Shanahan? Homie, have you not watched the San Francisco 49ers for the last 20 years? Like, to act like the 49ers quarterback situation has been in shambles since Kyle Shanahan has been here is insane because we've talked about it before. I don't need to dive in too much about it, but the Niners quarterback situation has been in shambles since Andrew Pasquini was born. And that's 30 years. I mean, Steve Young, he exists, but post Steve Young, what has been we're talking about, I mean, Josh Rosen, he's a Reddit poster now, for God's sake. He wasn't talking. Ken Dorsey, JT O'Sullivan, good YouTuber now. Sean Hill, like, to act like, but yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo said nothing. And it was another one of those things where it's like, oh, Niners Twitter is going to have so much fun with this because, like, there's no information here, but there's just enough to say, like, oh, I was right.
Well, there's just enough to have something to talk about because his body language was telling way more. It was way more. Like with him saying it was a weird situation. There's been a lot of weird situations in San Francisco. Boom, your first one. Then, well, it's been messy. What is it to, the quarterback situation? Then Jimmy Garoppolo, messy's a nice way to put it. How do you think they've handled the conversation, the quarterback conversation? And he said, how do you think they've handled it? That felt like a candid moment for Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, look, we all know what this team is. We all know that this team has won a ton of games, and they have. And we praise the coaching, we praise the drafting, we praise the organization, the culture. But I think two things can be true. You can sit there and say all of those things are true and also say, man, they still haven't necessarily figured out the quarterback position somehow. And, hopefully now it is solved. But that's what I think the Trey Lance trade highlights is that now you're under a bit of more of a microscope now because you moved on from the guy that you supposedly moved up to 3-4. And now it needs to work. So I think that's what was interesting about it. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo feels relieved a little bit that he's out of it because I'll be honest with you, man. He handled it like a pro when he was there, never said anything wrong. I think he went about it the best way anybody could. I'm not sure that if I was in the same position, I would be able to go through that and go through it in the way that he did. But he did, and he was professional about it. And now, you know what, Jimmy? Talk your shit. Talk your shit now at this point. Like, whatever, man. Like, it's too late now. It's done. It don't matter. You don't owe them anything by not speaking your mind now. You don't owe them anything, just in the same way they don't owe you anything when they want to move on from you.
He spoke like a man who wanted to say something, but also realized he's in the NFL and doesn't want to burn bridges. So allow me to be the first to extend this invite. Jimmy Garoppolo, when you retire from the NFL, and I hope that's in a long time, I hope he has a continuously long career, allow the Sprint Right Option podcast to be the first to extend you the invite of when you retire in the NFL to share your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan. Come on down to the Sprint Right Option podcast to do that. So I'm extending the invite very early, Jason. Upon we'll clear the schedule for that day when Jimmy Garoppolo jumps on to tell us his thoughts on Kyle Shanahan.
Well, me and AD 49ers are really cool, so I'm going to ask him for the plug.
There we go. We got the plug. We hooked it up. We got friendship on Twitter, man. AD 49er, just full circle, man. Full circle. Running backs. Not too much surprises here. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Tyrion Davis-Price, Jordan Mason, and Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe the one name that people were a little excited about was Jack Coletto. I think people are hoping he makes it on the practice squad. He played in the backfield, in the slot, and wide in the preseason, so he's got that versatile fullback. Maybe a future Juszczyk replacement. Other than that, not many thoughts here at the running back position. Jason Aponte.
Yeah, everything seems to be in order. Christian McCaffrey, please don't get injured. That's just all I ask. And Elijah Mitchell will be back as well too. That also very much.
I think he practiced on Monday.
Yeah,
he's fine.
He's ready to go. He's ready to go. So we're good. That in that regard, we're fine. Ty Davis-Price, I don't need to see you on the field if you need to pass pro, bro.
Yeah,
please, man. No matter how well you looked in camp, you couldn't block a crypto bot on Instagram that's like asking you if you can flip 500 into 5,000. You like that? That was good.
That's good. I like that. That's a good one.
That's a way better analogy than the one that I used last time. Like, so we can keep it so we can keep it from being like over the top.
Jason Fonte always going over the top. We like
always over the top somehow.
6 wide receivers: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod, Danny Gray, and 3rd round pick Ronnie Bell, wide receiver out of Michigan. He makes the 53 man. Good to see Bell making it. I mentioned it. I wrote an article, 19 initial thoughts on the 53 initial roster. I saw people referring to Ronnie Bell as Diet Debo, and I don't think there's many players I would like to be compared to as a 7th-round rookie trying to crack my first NFL roster than Debo Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, he fits right in with the Yak Bros. He doesn't go down on first contact. He drops passes. Oh, I didn't say that part. I didn't mean to say that part about that. Yeah, I mean,
Kyle Shanahan hates drops. He doesn't have a bunch of guys who like to drop footballs.
Stop me when I lie. Like, I love you, Debo, man. Stop me when I lie.
More like third and drops.
Right. But yeah, he fits right in. He looks like a guy that he always felt like a Kyle Shanahan receiver. I just despise when people are like, oh, he's what he wanted in Pettis. I don't think they comparably are the same sort of player at all. Like, I don't think that's the same thing at all. But I do think, again, Kyle Shanahan has a type at receiver, and when he likes you, he's going to go for you, and that's what they do with Ronnie Bell.
4 tight ends make the roster, and this is maybe the first surprise. Maybe it depends who you ask. George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, Braden Willis, and Charlie Warner. Cam Latu goes on the IR with his meniscus surgery. Maybe I'm a little confused. Is he out for the season? Is that what this IR is? He's not on the designated 4 weeks. Is this a red shirt?
All right, victory lap time. Yeah,
victory lap time.
Yeah, victory lap time. It's absolutely them redshirting Cam Latu because you cannot cut a 3rd-round pick that early. You cannot cut a 3rd-round pick that early, but they realize that he is not ready for prime time. So you make up an injury. You figure out a way to stash him on the IR. Kind of called this last week, and if you watch State of the Franchise later today, I will fully take my victory lap, and I fully want applause and congratulations. That's what I want.
I always give Jason Aponte his flowers anytime I can, and this is where I start because there's some moves that maybe we'll dive in a little bit later. We'll get to the waiver claims that happen. Braden Willis is one of the first names where it's like, that's an interesting one because like they've run with Kittle, they've run with Dwelly, and they've run with Warner for years on end now. It feels like. Braden Willis making it's good to see. I don't know if that's the best way to utilize that roster spot. This is the first time the Niners have kept 4 tight ends since 2020. So I don't know. I hope Braden Willis succeeds. I feel like there was other players that they could have used at other positions. But we'll see. I'm not too down on the Braden Willis pick. It's good to see. Offensive line, the Niners keep 9 players. The biggest surprise, obviously, being Trent Williams making the 53-man roster. Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz, Jalen Moore, John Feliciano, Matt Pryor, and Nick. 5 penalties in 3 preseason games. Zackle. This is where I'm gonna like dive in a little bit into the waiver claims, and I know Jason, you have your thoughts on Il Manning. I'm not saying he's a type player that like, hey, he needed to be on the 53-man roster. And I understand there's a lot going on behind the scenes from what I didn't see, like practices, closed practices, things like that. I just know that Il Manning was getting a lot of hype. And for those who missed it, Il Manning was claimed by the Arizona Cardinals today. He'll be on their 53-man roster. I just saw all the hype on Il Manning. And what I saw from Nick Zackle, I just don't know how that decision's made. I lied. I do know. As I said, there's a lot I haven't seen. But from what I saw personally, every time there was a flag on the offense against the 49ers in preseason, I just assumed they were calling 63. That's the point it got to. He gave up a lot of pressures. I think he gave up a sack in week 1. And just going off of what I heard and what I saw, and that's totally different than what the 49ers see, I thought Il Manning was a better pick than Nick Zackle. But at the same time, Jason, in true Sprint Right Option podcast form, ideally this is the last time we talk about backup offensive linemen. Ideally. So this is one of those small, like, hey, I don't understand it, but like there's a lot of gaps in what I saw versus what the Niners saw. I'm not going to be too much up in arms, but as I said, what I saw in Zackle compared to Manning, I think I would have gone Manning here. So,
yeah, it's tough. Again, when you have a roster as loaded, and you have to understand that we have different feelings on players than the organization does. Why did you go to Jake Brendel? Well, they had a move on that. That makes sense. Like, and they've done that. So they do deserve the benefit of the doubt. But when you kind of looked at the way Manning played, you would have thought that it was hard to keep him off this roster. Mm-hmm. And look, the 49ers have a ton of talented guys or guys that at least have something that someone thinks that they can get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Manning got picked up, and it is what it is. With Zakel, I think, Manning suits better as a guard, more in my opinion. With his short arms, 6'2", he suits better as a guard, which is good. You want flexibility, but you have that in Feliciano. And then you can't, I understand people are asking about why Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor has experience in this league, and he's played in this league, and I think there's
and same with Feliciano.
Right, 100%, the same thing. Same thing with why is Tom Compton there? Well, he's played football and he kind of understands. He's been around. It's weird because you can point to certain situations when you say, well, he was obviously there for his experience, and he's obviously there because coach likes his veteran presence. But then there's other times like this where it's just I would have held on. You guys held on to Jason Poe, got rid of him. Jason Poe is not big enough. He cannot play in this league. He's not going to be able to do it. And everybody loved him running routes and being a fullback, all that stuff. That's all cute, well and good, but there's no real role for you on this team, And when you have a certain amount of people that you need to get under for the 53-man, unfortunately, it ends up with things like this. And the 49ers are, a team that everybody looks at when they get rid of people, and they look at them and they say, well, if they let people go, then we're going to take a look at them because they're so good at talent evaluating and finding players who have not been drafted or highly sought after and getting the most out of them. So, yeah, I just think it sucks a little bit, but it is what it is.
And it's the nature of the beast. There's obviously, listen, you have 90, 100 players, whatever it is at camp, and cutting down to 53. I think it used to be easier because it used to be staggered. It used to be, cut down to 75, cut down to 60, whatever, and then you get to the 53. It's a lot different now. You have to go from this full 90-man roster to 54. So obviously there's going to be people that are going to be cut. As I said, I don't I see people talking about Feliciano and Zackel and how they're not great players, but again, kind of like Sam Darnold, ideally we're not talking about these guys anymore after this. So we'll see what happens. Obviously depth is important, and that's where the people who are saying, hey, those players aren't great, that's where it does become a concern, but ideally we don't talk about them. The defensive line, Jason Aponte, is where the term initial 53-man roster really comes into play. The 49ers kept 8 defensive linemen. That's actually the fewest in the Kyle Shanahan era that they've kept at defensive line. The previous fewest was 9, which was last year, 2020 and 2018. The 8 that were kept: Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Cleveland Farrell, Kevin Givens, Robert Beal Jr., and Kalia Davis. Shout out Robert Beal and Kalia Davis making this 53-man roster. That's nothing short of amazing for those two. The reason this initial 53-man roster focus on initial, the names that were cut: Kerry Hyder, Austin Bryant, T.Y. Miguel, Alex Barrett, Marlon Davidson. Literally, when it came out that the Niners cut Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant, it was reported right after that the Niners were going to bring Hyder and Bryant back because they have 4 years of experience. They don't go through waivers. They're free agents. So players are going to go on the IR. I'm assuming Ray McLeod is going to be one of them. So there's a spot. Maybe Jake Moody goes on the short IR. There's another spot. So it's interesting to see Kerry Hyder get cut. Not surprised the Niners are trying to bring him back. Not too many surprises here. We already talked about the Nick Bosa situation.
Bring Jordan Willis back.
Yeah.
Jordan Willis needs to be a lifetime San Francisco 49er and should not pay for any drink in the Bay Area his entire life.
Never again.
Bring Jordan Willis back.
Give him 52 again too.
Get the band back together, but you do need to load up a little bit. I will say this. Somebody's backing it up. Is that a truck or is that just
we're good?
Is that just someone with a wagon backing it up?
Somebody getting towed right now.
Oh man, all right. My thing is that I feel less confident in the depth of this defensive line than I ever have, and probably because Nick Bosa is still not on the contract, right? But I thought for a long time that the 49ers might be deeper than they ever were at this position. And I kind of want to back off that now with the little bit that I've seen. But with the Raiders letting Willis go, sign him back, bring him back, man. He's been a solid rotational guy. I think what we kind of overlooked was the loss of Amenahue and the loss of what's the other young man's name? Simpson.
Ebukam.
Arden Key, all those guys. Like you just figured they would find a new thing, and it's just like, hey, Clinton Farrell's here, Austin Bryant, and while it's a strategy that has the 49ers have reaped the benefits from, I feel less confident about it this year than I ever have in previous years.
Yeah, and like even the addition of Nick Bosa, which we're waiting on still, like that helps, but I don't know, man. It's an interesting defensive line to say the least. I mean, not having I still don't feel very comfortable with our second edge rusher, whether it be Farrell, whether it be Drake Jackson. It's concerning. It's definitely a concern. We'll definitely see what it looks like. I'm interested to see what Hargrave on the inside brings in terms of the pass rush, because the 49ers haven't seen a pass rusher on the interior since DeForest Buckner. So I'm curious to see what that kind of wrinkle adds to this defense. But yeah, Jason, you're right on the head with the there's not a lot of depth on the edge, and that can be concerning, especially considering that a lot of it was like, hey, yeah, Nick Bosa's here, but like the depth is where it's going to get it's going to win games for the Niners. It's not just going to be Bosa. It's what Bosa's creating for Amenahue. It's what Bosa's creating for Ebukam. So I'm exactly correct, Jason. It's going to be an interesting season, at least at the edge rusher spot.
Yeah, and that's it more than anything. I still think, again, once Bosa gets there, things change up a little bit more. You won't have someone like he plays like all of the snaps. He's not a rotational defensive guy. Yeah, I mean, possibly this could be me overreacting based on Nick Bosa not being here just yet. But I'm talking about most teams would be weak after Nick Bosa is not there, with your team. So, but yeah, I think they'll figure it out.
6 linebackers were kept, Jason Aponte, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, D. Winters, and Jalen Graham. The cut was McCrary Ball and Curtis Robinson, although Curtis Robinson's back on the practice squad, or at least the Niners are trying to get him back. Maybe McCrary Ball being a surprise. I think he kind of lost his spot with Winters and Graham, but the top 4 names shouldn't be a surprise at this point. Not too much surprise as a linebacker to me.
No, I don't think so either. Jalen Graham and D. Winters have been great. They want to see what they have in them. They kind of clone like the type of linebackers that the 49ers covet. So that makes sense. Yeah, a little bit surprised with Marcelino McCrary Ball because he's very fast and he's someone that the team has kind of held on to and made sure that they kept around. But again, it's like there's only so many people you can keep. There's so many roster decisions to make. So it's unfortunate, and it's kind of what we've been talking about all offseason is good football players are going to be cut from this team, and not because they're bad at football. It's because it's a numbers crunch and you can only keep so many people. That's why so many people are like scouring the 49ers, cuts to make waiver claims. And I think the 49ers are one of 3 teams with the most players claimed off of waivers. And that makes a lot of sense because the 49ers have done a great job talent evaluating.
Yeah, and the one position, the next one, cornerbacks, is where they almost got really hurt with the waiver claims. And this is probably the position group I have the most questions for. The 49ers keep 5 cornerbacks. Charvarius Ward, Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas, and Isaiah Oliver. And where my concern comes in, and we'll talk about the waiver claim stuff. Let's just talk on the 5 names. Is you have Charvarius Ward, established NFL player. The second cornerback, you're running with either Samuel Womack or Ambry Thomas, both very unproven entities in the NFL right now. You're not giving yourself much leeway behind it, right?
Yeah.
Like you are banking on these two kids to step in and perform, just as they're doing at slot, where it's Diamador Lenore, who I think he's proven he can play in the slot, and Isaiah Oliver, where it's man, like if Lenore doesn't look great and Isaiah Oliver doesn't look great, like the depth isn't there. And that's where the waiver claims come in. Now, the Niners caught a break. As we went live, Jason, it was reported that Quantrez Knight is back on the Niners practice squad. Mayoko tweeted out, actually, that the Cardinals claimed Knight but put a priority on DB Kayvon Wallace, whom they were rewarded. Arizona wanted Knight on their practice squad, but he decided to stick with the Niners. And then they obviously lost to Sean Jameson to Carolina. They claimed him. And I guess this is a little bit of the opposite of what I said about the offensive line, talking about how we're not worried about depth. But cornerback is such a rotational position that I don't know if I necessarily trust just having two guys fighting for CB2 and having two guys in the slot when you had a Quantrez Knight who's really earned his way into the conversation, and a guy like Deshaun Jameson, who I know is a UDFA, very unproven, but I think he showed a little bit in the preseason to at least take a chance. And that's where the roster spot of keeping a Brandon Allen, of keeping a Braden Willis, keeping a Nick Zackel, where it's like, do you really need that much depth at those positions where you're running 5 deep at cornerback with not a lot of question marks, but a good amount of question marks going into the season. So cornerback's my one spot where it's like, I don't know what they were really doing there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. But also the 49ers have put themselves in a spot with their salary cap that they could possibly make a move during the season if they needed to. They have all their draft picks for once, so they can try to figure something like that out. So I think right now it's going to be just play it by ear, see what you can get. Certain weeks you'll be able to get away with certain players being on the field due to personnel and, talent on the other side of the ball. But, yeah, cornerback usually doesn't feel good in this league. You don't want to get down to your cornerback 3, cornerback 4 in any instance. But, yeah, if we're talking about something that you should be a little bit concerned about, I would probably say it's cornerback depth. I think that's a very good call.
Yeah, and I see people saying like, "Oh, it should have been Jameson over Oliver." It shouldn't have been Jameson over Oliver has played 62 games in the NFL. I don't think cutting him would have been smart, but why not Knight over, as I said, Zackel? Why not Knight over other players who aren't really going to play like that? That's my thing. Cornerback depth is a concern. Jason, I don't know what we need to say about safeties. I think these were the 4 everybody were predicting: Talanoa Hufanga, Sean Gibson, George Oda, and Jair Brown. Do you have any in-depth thoughts? I think that's what a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah. Hopefully, Talanoa Hufanga's knee is fine. Because now I'm scared.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a cyst on my tailbone a couple of years ago, and that wasn't fun. I can't imagine what it feels like on something like your knee.
Yep.
That can't be fun. So hopefully that doesn't go bad, but we'll see. And then obviously everybody's here to talk about the 3 specialists that were kept: Jake Moody, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper. I don't know what the plan is for Jake Moody yet. I don't know if they're planning to IR him with designation to return. That would require short-term kicker, which I think would be funny if it was Cade York, just because high draft pick last year cut by his current team. Like, I think that'd be pretty ironic. Other than that, not too much at the specialist spot to talk about.
Don't care.
There you go.
Bring back Tristan Vizcaino. Don't care. My God.
There you go. So there's your specialist talk. And there you go, Jason. We just talked about the 53 players that were on the 49ers roster. Some players that were lost. I'm trying to find my list. We mentioned Il Manning. He got claimed by Arizona.
He did.
Keith Ishmael got claimed by Arizona as well. Pittsburgh signed Joey Fisher to their practice squad. Carolina claimed Deshaun Jameson. I know the names have slowly been leaking in. I know who they got on the practice squad now. Quantrez Knight, we just mentioned him. Niners have reportedly signed Shamar Jean Charles to the practice squad from Green Bay. So the practice squad is taking shape. Jason, I don't know if you've heard it, but football is back. 53-man rosters. I think that's another sign that football is back. No Trent Taylor on the Niners, unfortunately. He got claimed by Chicago. That would have been fun. So I don't know. Do you have any overarching thoughts on the 53-man before we get up out of here?
No. Again, this is probably not the final thing. You have a whole week. It's still Wednesday. There's a lot of waiver wire maneuvering and people who go unclaimed. Like, you look at a lot of teams and there's a lot of question marks on how they're moving around. Like the Patriots cut every running back or traded every running back, and now all they have is Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott. And they cut Bailey Zappi. and they cut what's the other young man's name? The one that was making waves.
The not Mac Jones.
Yeah, the one who's the wide receiver, the one who's actually was like kind of dynamic. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Like there's a lot to be said. So right now, it feels like once Nick Bosa gets in, then they've got to make more maneuvering. Once you figure out who's on IR, who's not, all that stuff is gonna fix itself. And yeah, football is back, Andrew Pasquini. Football is back. Yeah, football's back. No more. And then you know what? Look, no more hypotheticals. No more talking about wanting to see the quarterback 2 or quarterback 3 play, because I for sure don't want to fucking see Sam Darnold or Brandon Allen. So Brock Purdy, my message to you, young man, my message to the San Francisco 49ers offensive line and Kyle Shanahan, please do not let him get hurt and miss any single game. Please, I don't want to go through that. Brock Purdy, I'm going to send all the thoughts and prayers your way. 17 games, bud. Play the whole season. I don't want to see anybody else. Other than that, we're good. Same to you, Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to see anybody else. No one. Figure it out, guys.
I mean, there is a solution built in if Purdy does get hurt, and that's just flipping Bosa for Herbert. Pretty simple.
Or just sending a first-round pick or a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo and bring him back.
Bring back. How about AOC? AOC seems to be the big talk in Vegas.
Well, no, Aiden O'Connell's their future. Imagine being Jimmy Garoppolo and you're being signed to again be a stopgap again, and the guy behind you is hooping, and everybody's like, "Man, I think he's the future." This man is going through it. But Jimmy, hey buddy, if you're not doing anything, if you feel like you want to get out of Vegas and the 49ers need a spot, hey big head, I miss the way we were.
I miss you. You don't know what you got till it's gone. I think I made that reference before. Need paradise, but I think I sang that song too. Jason, it was fun. 53-man roster has been settled. We talked on lunch. I'm actually going to go get some bagel bites right now. That sounds yeah. I'm going to go Target and get some bagel bites.
Real quick, bagel bites or pizza rolls?
I'm a bagel bite guy. I grew up on bagel bite. Pizza rolls, Totino pizza rolls are fine. Like if I'm not going to turn down a Totino pizza roll, but like if you gave me a choice between bagel bites or Totino pizza rolls,
comment section. Come on, get in here.
I'm picking bagel bites 11 out of 10 times.
Bagel bites over pizza rolls? Comment section. Are you gonna let this fly?
Wait, are you arguing with me, Mr. Hang on, let me see if it's changed. Mr. My cover photo is bagel bites responding to you saying he's lucky to have you.
That was the greatest. That was the greatest Twitter moment I've ever had. That's the greatest Twitter moment. That's the greatest Twitter moment I've ever had. Pizza rolls, bagel. Wow, everybody's saying bagel bites. They're on your side. 100%. Gammon says your biggest fear last year was Brock Purdy receiving playing time. Guilty as charged. Is it possible that Sam is our future? Gammon, I'm going to double down here. Instead of using new information, I am doubling down. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, man.
Well, Gammon, it wouldn't. No. If we're doing this bar for bar last year, Purdy would be the Lance. Sam Darnold would be the Jimmy Garoppolo. So we got to be on the Brandon Allen train. QB3.
Oh, so Brandon Allen's the future. Man, look, all right. Bagel bites. Pizza roll, bagel bites. Totinos are mid. Pizza rolls, homie, with ranch.
I feel Dakin's. I like Dakin's answer. I'm fat. I'll eat them regardless. That's a good one.
The pizza roll with ranch is insane, but I respect it. Bagel bites. Dakin says, I'm fat. I'll eat them regardless. I'm fat too. I'll take either. Yeah.
I saw Hind asking if I'm still rooting for Wolves. Absolutely. I'm sticking with the pain the rest of my life.
All right. Look, we've got to get Andrew Pasquini out of here so he can get his bagel bites for lunch. I love it.
And clock back in and work for another 5 hours. And,
yep.
Jason,
all day by how about them Niners? I love it.
I don't know when we'll be back. I don't know the next time we're talking. We'll plan that. But next week is game week. And that's where it gets exciting, Jason Aponte. Let's get to it. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a blast. Hey guys, 91 of you here for a impromptuly scheduled 12:15 podcast. So I appreciate all of you guys being in here. None of this is possible without you. We love each and every one of you. I need to remind you guys of that constantly because that's how much I have love for all of you guys. Hey, Jason Aponte, how we end every podcast as always.
Look out tomorrow morning for my Vernon Davis interview, which will be dropping on the channel as well, too, with an article on Niners Nation. And as always, let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners, huh?
Yep. Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.